Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM. We're playing our favorite game, start, bench, cut. So we're going to tell you of the 3 players at the same position who should be in your lineup, who you want to have on your bench, and who you no longer want to roster in our imaginary game, because you're not going to have all these 3 players on the same fantasy team. Let's start with the quarterbacks here. We got Baker Mayfield, the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Derek Carr, the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. We all had it ranked that way. And Dak Prescott, who's gotten off to a miserable start. So you got Mayfield against the Broncos, Carr against the Eagles, Prescott against the Ravens. Start, bench, cut. Heath Cummings.
I know what you're trying to get me to do here. I'm not going to do it. So I'm starting Baker Mayfield. He is a top 12 quarterback for me this week. I am benching Dak Prescott because I still believe he has more upside than anyone on this graphic, and I am cutting Derek Carr, and I hate it.
Robert?
I gotta agree. I gotta agree with Heath right here. This is exactly how I would roster my roster as well. If I had all 3 of these quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield would be my starter. I think he's been excellent this season. Dak, I still believe in as far as regular season production. All right, hasn't been there, but still believe in him. I don't trust Derek Carr, and so I would cut him in this situation.
You guys are crazy. I'm going week to week, and I'm going with the guy who's got the best matchup. And Derek Carr's got the best matchup. The Eagles stink defensively, and Carr right now is just playing great football. And so I'm going to start him this week to maximize my roster. Got him 1 spot ahead of Baker Mayfield in my rankings. I'm going to bench Baker. See ya, Dak. Shouldn't have paid you. And you're not going to be on my fantasy team right now. So Dak Prescott kicking him to the curb. Let's go now to the next one that we're looking at here. 3 running backs. Got Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet, and Kyren Williams. And the theme for these 3 is 2 of the best replacement running backs right now and the best replacement running back last year in Kyren Williams. So Robert Turbin, start, bench, cut, Mason, Charbonnet, Williams.
Well, there's no doubt that I'm starting Jordan Mason because you know he's going to get the workload in that 49ers offense. With the injuries to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in LA, I'm putting Kyren Williams on the bench. You know that the Rams are going to be intentional about getting him involved even more. Running backs aren't always that involved in the Seattle Seahawks offense, so therefore I'm going to cut Zach Charbonnet.
I'm definitely cutting Zach Charbonnet because Ken Walker's coming back in a week or 2, and I don't need to keep Zach Charbonnet on my bench. I'm starting Kyren Williams. I think he's going to see a big increase in his target share, and I'm looking at my full PPR rankings right now, so that's why I'm saying this. I think we see more catches for Kyren Williams. I want to say all 3 of these running backs this week are top 12 running backs for me this week. So I'm not actually benching anyone, but I would bench Jordan Mason in this situation.
So if I was given my real answer, I would say I agree with you. I would actually start Jordan Mason and bench Kyren Williams and cut Charbonnet for the reason that you said. But Zach Charbonnet is my start of the week. So I'm going Charbonnet as the starter because I think he's going to destroy this Dolphins defense, which has been absolutely abysmal against the run through the first 2 weeks. And they're shell-shocked and their defense is going to be on the field all day. I am going to cut Kyren Williams just for this particular week because you can't cut the 49ers running back. So Kyren Williams, unfortunately, you're out. Zach Charbonnet, you're the starter, and Jordan Mason, you're going to be the starter as well because I'm the rule maker and the judge. I get to do what I want with this game. All right, Jameson Williams, Rashid Shaheed, and Calvin Ridley, our trio of wide receivers here. So you got Williams, who's been on fire, Shaheed, who's been on fire, and Ridley's coming off a 2-touchdown game. So Heath, who you starting, who you benching, who you cutting?
So these guys are like 4 spots apart in my rankings this week. Good job. Calvin Ridley is the guy I'm starting. I believed in him coming into the year. I believe that he has the ability to be a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football for the entire season. I'm starting him this week. Jameson Williams is going to the bench because he has that pedigree as well of someone who could be a must-start wide receiver. I love Rashid Shaheed, but apparently I hate the Saints in this game. I'm cutting Rashid Shaheed.
Robert?
I'm starting Jameson Williams. I love his upside. Calvin Ridley, I'll put him on the bench. Just not consistent enough for me. And that's the same reason why I'm cutting Rashid Shaheed as well. He just sparked to me, this year. He's going to be cutting. So I'm starting Jameson Williams. I'll put Calvin Ridley on the bench, and I'm cutting Rashid Shaheed.
I would agree with that. However, for this week, I do like Shaheed better than Ridley. I think Ridley's going to have a good game as well. But the way the Saints are playing, and just that Eagles defense is so bad right now, I think Shaheed keeps it going. Imagine if he gets more targets in a back and forth type of game where Derek Carr may be throwing 30 to 35 times. Rashid Shaheed could step up. And just keep in mind, we're talking about Jameson Williams. We're anticipating Amon-Ra St. Brown being healthy. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, clearly Jameson Williams is the easy starter of this trio. No question about it. All right, another trio of wide receivers. We got Drake London, George Pickens, and Mike Evans. London coming off a good game. Pickens and Evans coming off disappointing games. Robert, who you starting, who you benching, you cutting? London, Pickens, Evans.
You know I love my veterans, Jamie, okay? So I'm going with Mike Evans as my starter. Drake London has huge upside, so I'll put him on the bench. And I don't trust the Steelers' offense, so George Pickens is getting cut.
I'll tell you something, Robert. The only reason I think that Mike Evans is ahead of Drake London and George Pickens in these rankings consensus is because I have such a big gap between him and the other two guys. So I'm starting Mike Evans. I'm going to bench George Pickens, and I am going to cut Drake London. I think both Pickens and London are basically flip a coin on a week-to-week basis. They both have huge upside. They both have big question marks.
So I'm an ageist.
Yeah.
And Mike Evans, for this week, you're gone because you got Patrick Surtain. You got Patrick Surtain. It's going to be tough. I mean, you look what Surtain has done the first 2 weeks of the season. DK Metcalf obliterated him. George Pickens took him out of the game. We saw Evans struggle last week. Baker Mayfield went someplace else. Chris Godwin stepped up. I think we're going to see a similar type game plan. So, unfortunately, Mike Evans, you're out. I'm starting George Pickens because he did almost have a touchdown against Surtain. He was great in week 1. I know the volume's not going to be necessarily huge, but you talk about target share. We know he's going to lead the team in target share. And Drake London, I think we started to see the Falcons get going. So I'm starting Pickens. I'm benching London. And the old man, you can go to the retirement home in Mike Evans, and that's where you'll be at least for the foreseeable future. All right, let's take one of your questions before we get to our full mailbag. So again, keep those questions coming. I should have mentioned use the hashtag AskFFT. Trade situation here. Give Garrett Wilson, receive A.J. Brown. So Brown may miss week 3, still dealing with that hamstring injury. Heath, would you give Garrett Wilson to get A.J. Brown?
Yeah, as long as it's just a 1-week injury. I love this trade. We liked A.J. Brown more than Garrett Wilson before the season. Garrett Wilson's done nothing to change that. A+.
Robert?
Absolutely. Yep. This is a trade submitted yesterday. Get it done.
Yep.
Even if A.J. Brown has to miss 2 weeks. Be patient, get it done.
Yep, and some tough matchups already for Garrett Wilson, some tough matchups coming ahead for Garrett Wilson as well. He gets Patrick Surtain in week number 4. All